Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my messy office. Marty here from Heavy Metallurgy with a new review for the Heavy Metallurgy album review series. This time around, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite subgenres in metal, which is Norwegian black metal. So stick around with me, and we're going to get into it here in just a second. All right, we have gathered here today to discuss the debut full-length album by the Norwegian band Nattehimmel called Mourningstar. It was released on May 19th, 2023 for Hammerheart Records. Nattehimmel, I hope I am saying that correctly, is kind of a supergroup, so to speak. It's got Jay Fogarty from Old Forest fame, In the Woods, C.M. Battery from In the Woods and Green Carnation, an X-Battery from In the Woods and Green Carnation, and a couple other guys that have quite a pedigree of bands beneath them as well. But these bands are probably the most widely known, at least to me anyway. So Nattehimmel put out a 3-song demo cassette in 2022, which is the year that they formed. They've released a couple singles leading up to Mourningstar. And I've got to say that this band, right off the bat, reminds me of a mix of early Gehenna and early Dimmu Borgir. Vocally, there is a very monotone, despondent, clean vocal style, which puts me in mind of Edwin's Ende. And it's mixed with more harsh, typical, what you would expect, black metal vocals. Isan from Emperor comes to mind in the pitch and the tone and the higher nasally register of the screams. The bulk of Mourningstar is built upon patience. There's an atmosphere swirling beneath the black metal, well, actually soaring above the black metal, that's built on a steadfast minimalism and simplicity, which, I'll be completely honest, I guess I went in knowing that this was a Norwegian black metal supergroup. I went into this with some sort of expectation of what I was going to hear. And when that expectation wasn't initially met, not by any fault of the band, it took me a while. This is a grower for me. It took many, many listens for it to finally process and become accustomed to what's going on. But again, that's not taking anything away from the band, so to speak. But let's get into the bulk of the album. First off, the production. It's very well produced. You can hear everything that's going on quite clearly. There is kind of a muddled tone to it. There isn't a lot of brights. There isn't a lot of high end. There's not a lot of treble, which is fine. It gives it kind of a fuzzed out, kind of doomy quality, which also kind of plays into the mid-paced nature of this album. So the songs start out very formula-based, and the album continues on that path for the entirety of it. Again, the simple lines that make up the record, there might not be a lot going on individually with the instruments, like the drums. There's a lot of just kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare type drum beats to hold a beat and keep moving the song forward while, they layer on the guitars, from clean guitar passages to heavy distorted songs with the ever-present dense atmosphere of keyboards over the top, which is also delivered by Jay Fogarty, who is the vocalist and the keyboardist. He was in Old Forest and In the Woods. But let's get into the track listing here a little bit. Astrologer is the first song after the intro, probably one of my favorites on the album. Very heavy atmosphere right off the bat, with simplistic though dense synth work. Largely mid-paced lead-off track. It lays on the mysticism for the rest of the album to unfold and follow within this formula. The vocals, there's like I mentioned Isan, I mentioned Ven Buenenzende, is there's a level of familiarity here, but it did take a little bit of time to visit and realign with that style. The next track, Each Man a Constellation, follows in the predetermined formula, but we see moments of speed by way of blast beats. This is the first time speed enters the equation here, and it isn't dominating at all. It comes and goes, returning to the mid-pace plod. It does add a nice level of intensity, which I do wish there was more of on this album. But thankfully, the songwriting is solid enough and poignant and purposeful and interesting enough. It held my interest. Armies of Tiamat, another favorite song of mine off this album. The band builds on the overall theme, this time by adding simplistic, though very effective guitar melody lines. Kind of like pseudo solos to live on top of the riff ideas. And the chorus feeds off this melody by offering probably the most hook-oriented and memorable flow in the riffing, and how the vocals empower those riff lines in the chorus. It's just a lot of flow and feel in here. And that's flow and feel. That's two things that are very important on this record. The album goes on. We get to Realm of Hades, which I noticed there is a distinct vocal shift. From this point on, the vocals tend to focus on that despondent, folky kind of clean singing style. Nattehimmel are not afraid to strip away the metal to allow keyboards to exist alone with the drums. It inspires a hint of folk influence before the black metal flows back in. Interesting song structure, defies convention on this one, and is the first track where clean vocals are the focal point. There are little moments where there's some screaming in the background, but that is quickly washed away by the clean vocals. That brings us to The Immortals. Back to more an aggressive track with more speed and dissonant riffing than previously displayed. Clean vocals remain the dominant style. For that, Arcturus, Ved Buenenzende vibe, as I mentioned previously. A couple more songs come and go. We're still in that vein. There's not a lot of harsh vocals at this point. There's very clean vocals, very mid-paced plodding, though melodic feel. And it leads up to the final track called The Night Sky Beckons, which is a very simplistic song, though triumphant feel in the riff work. Very triumphant feeling, and the keyboards really accentuate that. It's a good way to end the album.
To be as one with the gods, to ascend to higher planes.
I guess this will take us to the point where I have to... What bugged me about this record. And it isn't anything that Nattehimmel has done. It's what they didn't do and how my expectations played into it. Like I mentioned earlier in this review, it took me a lot of time to fully process and be okay with the mid-paced, super simplistic plot. And like I said, kick, snare type drum beats. When the speed kicks in, I mean, the drummer's a very competent drummer, but you can tell he is playing less so the music can do more, if that makes any sense. The guitar lines, you know, the Norwegian sound is built on a melodic dissonance that is often accentuated by a playing style that plays all six strings when they're chording, and interesting riff lines. This is a very Norwegian sounding record without doing that. The guitar work is very power chord centric. simple power chord lines, the little melody harmonies that come in on occasion. Again, very simple lines. They're easy to comprehend, though these simple lines being layered together, it unlocks a bit of mysticism, which is very cool. I would have liked a little bit more variety. I would have liked a little more speed applications here and there to really accentuate turns in the song. But this is very minor, and I even became quite accustomed to the clean singing. Like I said, I've already gone over how many times that the Arcturus, Vedwin, and Zende, even in those bands, that vocal style was an acquired taste for me. I got it. I finally like it, and it works really well here, thankfully, because if not, this would be a hard album to get around for me, but it isn't. It works really well. There's moments on here where it reminds me of early In the Woods, which is very cool. In the Woods was always an experimental band, started out very black metal, but had a very atypical way of going about their black metal. And as that band went on, they got more weird rock style, Strange. I mean, there's Strange in Stereo was the name of one of their. Omnio is another one. Stuff I listened to once or twice, just couldn't process. I need to be anchored in that black metal frame of expression, which thankfully Nattehimmel does. They stay within the black metal realm. They experiment with vocals. There are little lines here and there that step away from metal briefly before all the black metal comes back in. So my complaints are very minimal here. Thankfully, I took the time and went through this record probably a good 10 or 15 times to the fact where it finally clicked. And which leads me to say, am I going to get this record? Yes, I'm probably going to buy this record. For a modern era black metal from Norway, it's a welcomed addition to a collection, and it is very much so modern, but they're trying to tap into the old vein, the old style. You know, obviously these guys all came up in it, and it's probably still very much a big part of their thought process when writing music. I don't think that ever really goes away. But so, yeah, I mean, aside from a few negative things I have to say, again, that's all on me. It was my expectations of this record going in, which never fair to an artist. You should never go in expecting something, because when you do that, you're always going to be disappointed. So I worked through all of that. It's a great record. And yes, definitely check out Nattehimmel, the Mourningstar. Was that the name of it? Yep. Nattehimmel, Mourningstar. Definitely worth your time to investigate if you're into Norwegian black metal and black metal in general. Is it a contender for, album of the year? It isn't. It isn't that type of record. Is it going to push them to the head of the line of, bands that you're going to speak in the same sentences, greatness of Mayhem, Emperor, and more, all that stuff? No. This is very much a third tier type of Norwegian black metal band, but it's very good, and it's got some very talented people from the scene doing it. Good stuff. I would encourage you to check it out. And I guess that's it. Until next time, if you like content like this, stick around. We're doing more and more reviews as we go. We've got an all-star cast of characters contributing to it, so keep coming back to Heavy Metallurgy for new content, new reviews, and maybe we can turn you on to an album or two. But until next time, thanks, take care, stay metal. Bad tagline. We're just going to roll with it. Cheers.